In the quiet corners of rural folklore, there are whispers of an object no one dares speak of directly. A doll, bound in thread, and something darker, always appearing where it shouldn't be. They call it the Labubhu Doll. But what if the stories weren't just superstition? What if it found you next? Welcome to Verified Red Evil, where we explore horror that hides in plain sight. Hit that subscribe button if you're brave enough. Whispered through generations and buried in brittle family Bibles, stained with ash and blood, lives a legend. A doll, hand-wrapped in black thread, without a face or limbs, just a formless thing with straw hair and a hunger for presents. It has no origin, no maker, only a name carved into nightmares. Laws, both say the name came to a grieving widow in a fever dream, after she found the doll sitting in the ashes of her burned home. Her husband and children gone vanished. All that remained was that bundle of thread, warm like flesh, and humming softly like breath. Dorian knew none of this. He wasn't from these parts. He was a thrill-seeker, YouTuber, known for sneaking into abandoned factories, tunnels, and ghost towns. His channel, down below, thrived on eerie places and forbidden footage. Markings and rumors of missing hikers. He knew he had to see it for himself. He drove out alone, parking near a crumbling trailhead choked in vines. The forest was still. The wind didn't move. As he descended into the mouth of the tunnel, the world seemed to hold its breath. With his flashlight slicing the darkness and his chest-mounted GoPro humming softly, he walked deeper into the earth. Then he found the chamber, an open, round room carved from wet stone, dripping and still. At its center sat the Labubhu Doll, 10 inches tall, wrapped in suffocating black thread. No features, no face. Straw sprouted like rotten hay from its head. It didn't look at him, it didn't have to. He felt it, watching. He laughed nervously, filmed a few sarcastic remarks, and left. Or tried to. Later, as he reviewed the footage at home, he froze. In the final shot, the doll had moved. Not by much, but it was no longer where he'd left it. He returned the next day. This time, it wasn't in the chamber. It was 30 feet down the tunnel, sitting in the center of his path, waiting. He tasted iron. His flashlight flickered, and his GoPro feed cut to black for 3 full seconds. When it came back, his voice was shaking, but he took it home anyway for content. He placed it on a shelf behind him during streams, mocking it, laughing. His audience loved it. Until the comments started. The doll just moved. Did anyone else hear whispering? Go to 1739. It blinks. Dorian brushed it often till the nightmares began. Every night he dreamed of being tied down. In his dreams, the doll hovered over him, whispering in a language that hurt to hear. He'd wake with phantom burns on his skin and the taste of ash in his throat. Worse, the doll moved. Every morning, it was somewhere new. The windowsill, the fridge, the edge of his bed. Once, he woke to find it pressed gently against his chest. He tried everything. He set it on fire. The flames recoiled. He buried it in the woods. It came back. He shipped it in a locked steel box to a researcher. The package arrived empty. His skin turned pale, his eyes sunken. Some said his voice began to change, less human. He whispered things without knowing, old words, rotten syllables. His final stream was almost silent. He sat in darkness, the Labubhu Doll perched behind him like a parasite. His lips trembled as he leaned toward the mic. It's not just a doll. It's a gate, a vessel, and something has come through. Then the lights died. The camera caught one final frame. Dorian stood, eyes wide, his mouth sewn shut with black thread. Then static. No one has seen him since. But the horror didn't stop there. Viewers of his final video reported strange dreams, hallucinations. One woman woke screaming, her lips stitched with thread, no needle in sight. Another claimed her toddler whispered Labubhu in his sleep for 3 nights straight, then stopped speaking altogether. Then came the dolls, wrapped in thread, found on porches, on pillows, inside cars. Some arrived in the mail with no return address, others were just there, waiting. Researchers tried to investigate. Footage was corrupted. Interviews were never saved. Anyone who got too close went quiet or worse. The legend had mutated. The Labubhu doll no longer needed to be touched, no longer needed to be seen, just known. Now that you've heard its name, it knows you too. So if, tonight, you wake to the sound of thread pulling tight, if you see a shape on your dresser where none should be, if you feel eyes where there are no eyes, do not move, do not blink, and whatever you do, do not speak its name. Let's move to our second story. The Labubhu doll had found a new home 3 states over. In the quiet Blue Ridges of North Carolina, a woman named Eliza McKenna inherited a mountain cabin from her estranged great-aunt Beatrice. The place was practically inaccessible, no road signs, no electricity, and buried in dense woods that locals quietly avoided. Eliza, a freelance folklorist who'd published several viral blogs on Appalachian myths, saw it as an opportunity to get away and research firsthand the darker corners of mountain lore. She'd grown up hearing scattered mentions of the Labubhu doll, but always as a cautionary tale told in half-whispers, a faceless doll that moved on its own, cursed those who kept it, and was used in some forgotten ritual to bind pain and memory into a single object. But Eliza never believed in those stories, not until she found the doll. Beatrice's cabin was a museum of the bizarre. Dried herbs hung in bundles, charm bags and bone carvings adorned the shelves, and dozens of journals were scattered across the floor. It looked like Beatrice had been documenting something obsessively, trying to make sense of a presence she could never fully escape. Eliza assumed it was just a lonely woman's descent into superstition till she opened a locked chest beneath the bed. Inside was the Labubhu doll. Even without knowing its name, Eliza recognized it. Black thread, tightly wrapped, straw hair sprouting in a tangled arc. No limbs, no eyes, but it felt alive. She didn't touch it. She just stared, heart pounding, as something deep in her gut screamed at her to put it back and walk away. But curiosity is a cruel thing. That night, the air in the cabin turned icy. Eliza dreamt of being buried alive, hands tied, 1,000 voices whispering her name in a language she didn't understand. She woke, drenched in sweat, and the doll had moved closer to her bed. She tried to rationalize it. Sleepwalking, rodents. Maybe she'd misremembered where she left it. But the next day, when she returned from gathering water, the doll was waiting for her on the cabin steps. Then the knocking began. 3 taps on the wall, then silence, 3 more, then laughter, low, childlike laughter that came from behind her. Even when she was alone, she started documenting everything, scribbled her observations into a fresh notebook, began filming on her phone even when she wasn't speaking. She became convinced that the Labubhu doll wasn't just haunted, it was listening. Every time she mentioned it by name, it seemed to move again. She tried calling a friend to come help, but the moment she said Labubhu, the call cut off. Then came the bleeding walls. At first, it looked like condensation, then rust, but soon thick trails of black-red liquid oozed from the corners of the room, smelling of rot and iron, and beneath the sound of the wind. Eliza heard that phrase again and again, thread by thread, blood by blood. On the fourth night, she dreamt of Beatrice. Her gratin stood in the forest, arms outstretched, mouth sewn shut. Behind her, dozens of people stood in silence, their faces missing, heads twitching unnaturally. Each held a Labubhu doll. Eliza woke with thread around her wrists. She tried to flee. She packed a bag, wrapped the doll in salt, and left it behind. But at the edge of the woods, her body stopped moving. Her muscles refused her. Her voice died. In her throat and behind her, the crunch of leaves. The doll was back in her hands. She screamed, tore it in half, threw it into the fire. The flames roared for a moment, but when they died, the doll remained untouched. Watching, Eliza went back into the cabin and did what Beatrice had done. She started writing down everything. She filled pages with drawings of symbols that had appeared on the walls. She sketched tunnels she had never seen in waking life. She wrote down the phrase she could not forget. A doll is a vessel. The vessel becomes memory. Memory becomes pain. Weeks passed. Eliza stopped eating. Her hair fell out in clumps. She left audio journals, desperate messages for anyone who might find them. Her final entry was a whisper. The Labubhu doll is not an object. It's a hunger. It follows memory. And I think it's learning. Then nothing. A hiker found the cabin 5 months later, empty, covered in symbols. All electronics smashed. The only thing intact was a notebook titled Labubhu, and in the center of the room, sitting perfectly upright on a circle of thread, was the doll. No one touched it, but weeks later, that hiker vanished. Now, if you say the name enough, you might dream of Eliza. You might hear 3 knocks on your wall. You might wake to the smell of burning thread and a pressure in your chest that never goes away. You've heard the name. You've seen the signs. The Labubhu doll is watching, and it is hungry again. Let's move to our third story. It started, as most viral things do, with a video low quality, vertical format, shaky hands, and bad lighting. The TikTok was posted at 2:43 a.m. by an account named @BrickSNDust, a channel known for exploring abandoned places across India. The caption was simple: "Found something weird in the Ash orphanage. Watch till the end." The video opened with the sound of footsteps crunching over broken glass. The flashlight beam danced over soot-blackened walls and twisted metal. For nearly a full minute, nothing unusual happened. Then, as the camera turned toward a small open cupboard, something inside caught the light. Small, sitting perfectly upright. A doll, not plastic or porcelain, but wood. Dark brown, hand-carved, wearing a decaying cloth dress stained by time and smoke. Its glass eyes reflected the light eerily, and stitched across its chest, almost too faint to read, was one word: Labubhu. At first, viewers thought it was a prop. a creepy leftover toy from some child who once lived in the orphanage before it burned down. But in the last 3 seconds of the video, the camera stuttered slightly as the person filming gasped. The doll, impossibly, subtly, blinked. Not a glitch, not a lighting trick, just a slow, mechanical blink that froze the frame. The video ended in silence. In the first 12 hours, the video reached 60,000 views. People joked in the comments, calling it fake, creepy, cursed. But something was different. Dozens of viewers reported app crashes when trying to replay the video. Some said the TikTok algorithm showed it to them again and again, no matter what they watched. Others started tagging friends, asking, "Did you see it move? Watch till the end. Don't scroll." By day 2, it had over 3 million views. Edits and stitches flooded the platform, with creators zooming in on the doll's eyes, replaying that final moment in slow motion. A few claimed to see the mouth twitch too. A user named @HazelNightmare uploaded a side-by-side comparison showing the doll blink not once, but twice, the second time almost imperceptible. She whispered in her caption, "I think it's watching us." Then her account vanished. No warning, no explanation. Her other social media profiles were deleted within the hour. People started digging into the doll's name. Labubhu found almost nothing. No famous dolls by that name. No horror movie tie-ins. No missing toys. Except one archived police record from 1999 about the fire at the Baravpur Children's Home and Orphanage that burned down, killing 13 children and 3 staff. The cause was never determined. No suspects were named. But one line stood out in the final report. A single object was found untouched by fire, seated upright in the remains of the East Wing nursery. A wooden doll with glass eyes, stitched. With the name Labubhu within the TikTok community, a trend began. People tried to recreate the original video, calling it the hashtag LABUBHU challenge. Some explored abandoned buildings and left dolls in cupboards, mimicking the blink. Others pretended to summon the doll by whispering its name 3 times in the dark. But then, strange things began to happen off-camera. A boy named @Arjun404 live-streamed himself performing the challenge in his bedroom. Holding a wooden doll replica he claimed was 90% accurate to the one in the video. He laughed through the whole thing, mocking it, even speaking in a fake, creepy voice. "Labubhu, I summon you. Come play with me," he said, grinning. The live stream ended abruptly 10 minutes later when the camera tipped over and began to spin slowly, as if someone picked up the phone and rotated it mid-recording. There was a faint giggle. The screen went black. Arjun's parents found his room empty the next morning. His phone lay on the floor, untouched. The only thing out of place was the doll still seated on the chair, but now facing the window, arms slightly raised, as if reaching for something. That night, another creator, @Shavika_draws, who had stitched the original video with her own doll art, reported hearing scratching behind her walls. Her drawings were found torn the next morning, all of them defaced with the same word scribbled over and over in charcoal. Mine. Security footage showed her leaving her apartment at 3:12 a.m., barefoot, eyes wide open, walking calmly into the woods behind her building. She hasn't been found. Her last TikTok was uploaded automatically by her phone's gallery audio clip of her voice whispering, "He's not a toy, he's not a toy, he's not a toy." on loop, with no video at all. By now, fear had replaced curiosity. People stopped making jokes and started deleting their posts. Some creators swore they'd never even uploaded Labubhu content, yet it kept appearing on their profiles. One popular makeup artist said the doll appeared in the background of her GRWM Get Ready With Me video, even though she filmed it in front of a blank wall. When she tried to delete it, TikTok crashed. When she re-uploaded it with edits, Labubhu reflection showed in her mirror, watching from behind her vanity. She moved out of her house the next day, claiming she heard wooden footsteps at night and something small breathing under her bed. Her final message was a blurry story post-reading. If you see him, don't blink. Let's move to our fourth story, named Labubhu. Stumbled across it on the deep side of TikTok, where likes don't matter and most comments are just warning emoji. She'd seen dozens of edits, warnings, breakdowns of the original orphanage footage, and still thought it was a clever hoax, a ghost story for the TikTok age. But Priya didn't just scroll by, she dug deeper. Her first mistake. Unlike the casual viewers who closed the app and walked away, she started saving videos. It wasn't long before the algorithm caught on, all looping the same 5 seconds of that blink, the Labubhu blink that started it all. She began waking at 3:12 a.m. without alarms, phone face down and warm, as if freshly used. On the fourth night, her notifications were filled with messages she hadn't sent. He's in, they read. He's almost through. She thought it was a glitch, maybe someone hacking her account for fun. But her camera roll told a different story. Images of her sleeping, taken from inches away, with a small, shadowy figure, often blurred in the background. Her room, her bed, her face, documented as if something had been observing her for weeks. The doll never appeared directly, not at first. But then her printer began producing strange pages at night, drawings of a doll with black stitched eyes and limbs bent at impossible angles. Every page was signed Labubhu in perfect cursive, traced again and again in childlike frustration. One morning, she woke to find her closet door open and the old toy chest inside rattling gently. It hadn't been used in years. She opened it slowly, thinking maybe her cat had gotten inside, but it was empty, except for one thing, a carved wooden hand. Why would they? There was no sign of break-in, no real doll, just scribbles and paranoia. They took away her devices, deleted her apps, even booked her a therapy session. But nothing stopped the feeling that something small was moving through. The house at night, never quite seen, only sensed a flicker at the edge of her vision. One of her friends said she was acting cold, that her voice didn't sound right in the group call last night. The problem, she hadn't spoken to anyone in days. That night, her bedroom mirror fogged from the inside, her breath visible. On the other side, she began to film everything, desperate for proof. At 3:12 a.m. exactly, her phone recorded movement, something crawling under her bed, dragging what looked like tiny wooden legs behind it. When she turned on the light, nothing was there except a splinter lodged in her heel and the sound of tiny fingers tapping beneath the mattress. She left her house at dawn, walking the streets with bloodshot eyes, holding a handmade sign, "Don't watch the video." But the problem was deeper now. It wasn't just about the video anymore. Labubhu had become a name people whispered, a test of bravery, a challenge in group chats. People started stitching her breakdowns, laughing at her frantic warnings. They didn't understand what she had learned, that Labubhu wasn't a haunted object. He was an invited one, a parasitic memory that traveled through attention, through screens, names, jokes, shares. Every mention opened a door. Every blink seeded him deeper in her desperation. She contacted a hacker group rumored to know about signal-bound entities. They laughed at first, blinking endlessly, smiling wider each loop. One coder tried tracing the original upload's metadata and found hundreds of ghost servers, all named after missing children from the Baravpur orphanage fire. All logs ended the same way. Asset retrieved, vessel stable, awaken protocol queued. Priya was now convinced that Labubhu wasn't just a ghost in the machine. He was designed a vessel for something old, perhaps not even human. Her dreams were no longer hers. Beds, and in the center, a child-sized throne. Seated on it, Labubhu wooden hands folded, eyes glowing like trapped stars, smiling as if he had waited centuries for her return. One night, she didn't wake. Her family found her asleep on the floor, mouth stitched shut not with thread, but with fine splinters pressed through the skin. Her eyes were still moving beneath her lids. To her channel, no editing, no narration, just raw, corrupted video files where glimpses of the doll appeared more and more clearly, sometimes peeking from shelves, sometimes crawling through the background, and once standing behind her as she filmed, one wooden hand resting gently on her shoulder. Comments flooded in. This can't be real. Is this AI? What kind of ARG is this? But a few people understood. They begged others not to watch, not to follow. Too late. As the views climbed, strange things began to happen to Priya's viewers. A boy from Lucknow went blind in one eye, the doctors saying it was as if he stared into the sun for too long. A content house in Bangalore lost all its creators within 24 hours of uploading a Labubhu reaction series. The video still loops on, their profile showing an empty room and a doll slowly turning toward the lens. Labubhu was no longer hiding in shadows or glitches. He was being invited, worshipped, turned into trend and theater, a thing mocked and shared without fear. And that was the real horror. Because with each laugh, each share, each stitched video, the boundary between digital and physical wore thinner. He no longer needed the orphanage to appear. Your phone was enough. Your mirror, your sleep. And as Priya's final recording warns, long after her disappearance and dated weeks into the future, he doesn't need to be found. He just needs to be remembered. Let's move to our last story. Ritu had always been fascinated by the intersection of myth and media. A quiet postgraduate researcher tucked in the folds of the digital folklore lab at her university. Someone who dissected internet legends the way a pathologist might examine a corpse. Precise and emotionally removed, but fascination turned to obsession the moment she stumbled across a whisper deep within a neglected TikTok thread. A clipped, corrupted video tagged only with the name Labubhu, showing a small wooden doll on an ancient chair, unmoving yet suffocatingly present, its button eyes somehow blinking in the glitch between frames. And her instincts, honed through years of studying how attention fed modern myths, screamed that this was different, that this wasn't just a story, but a presence, something ancient, riding the veins of the internet like parasitic roots. So she followed it, tracing reposts, vanished accounts, archived clips that refused to play audio but left the smell of pine and burnt lacquer on her speakers. And still she persisted, charting Labubhu's digital migration like an archaeologist chasing ghosts, until she stopped sleeping, stopped eating, her room now wallpapered in stills from the doll's appearances and hand-drawn reconstructions. From corrupted frames, eyes always slightly off, slightly alive. And soon she realized the videos weren't just being deleted, they were devouring the people who shared them, not physically, but from memory, leaving behind gaps where their identities had once stood. Online and off, a digital extinction that no one else seemed to notice, and Ritu, in her madness or clarity, felt herself inching closer to some threshold no human was meant to cross, as her own reflection began to mimic her movements a fraction. Too late, her shadows no longer aligning with light, and her skin, oh God, her skin tightening like wax-dipped cloth, pale and grainy, as if wood had begun to grow from within, her fingertips curling, stiffening, nails darkening into bark-like ridges, and through it all, Labubhu remained in her mind, no longer glimpsed in clips, but in the backs of her eyelids, in the silent hum behind static, in the giggle of the neighbor's child, who now chanted Labubhu while sleepwalking. And when her professor came to check on her, all he found was a locked door, a humming sound that didn't echo, and an email from Ritu, time-stamped days before, but only sent seconds ago. Reading, "He sees you too now," and her laptop remained open, screen blank, except for two blinking buttons that weren't interface elements. They were eyes blinking slowly, in sync with his breath, her breath, your breath, as if you two had begun watching too long. And that was the trick, wasn't it? Not the curse itself, but your attention, because Labubhu fed on focus, on fixation, on obsession, and Ritu, brilliant and doomed, had become his perfect conduit, her body no longer hers, but his altar, carved and jointed, stuffed with straw, memories and forgotten screams, her voice now a wooden creak in every stitched audio, her smile the curve of lacquered Eviland. Now when her videos resurface, briefly and without source, viewers don't just get scared, they start carving, chanting, dreaming in pine, waking with wooden splinters in their mouths, and the words "let him in" etched on their arms. And all of them, unknowingly, help build his cathedral of noise, attention, and fear. Because Ritu's transformation was not an ending, it was a beginning. Her consciousness dissolved and repurposed, pulsing in the code of every cursed TikTok, whispering his lullaby in hex and frame drop, each new watcher stitched into the legend with invisible thread, and so the story spreads, alive, recursive, viral, not because Labubhu is a monster, but because we made him one, gave him shape, gave him sight, gave him Ritu, who once studied folklore, and now is folklore, and now is folklore. Her existence, a sacrifice that every viewer continues, even now, as you reach the end of this sentence and realize the whisper you heard earlier wasn't imagination. It was Labubhu, breathing, asterisk.